On a dying planet where nature itself fades into oblivion, one man's quest collides with destiny. Meet Dr. Elias Voss, a scientist racing against time to unlock the secrets of extinction. But when he encounters Lyra, an enigmatic alien guardian who holds ancient knowledge of her world's fragile ecosystem, their bond becomes the key to survival. Together, they must protect the last living flower, a relic that could either restore life or doom this forgotten world forever. Can two souls from different worlds rewrite the fate of an entire planet? Stay tuned to find out, and don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling sci-fi adventures. The transport shuttle descended through layers of ochre clouds, its thrusters humming softly as it breached the atmosphere of Zereth 7. Dr. Elias Voss adjusted his breathing mask, peering through the porthole at the desolate expanse below. What had once been lush forests now resembled skeletal ruins, branches stripped bare, leaves reduced to brittle husks. He clenched his fists around the data pad resting on his lap, recalling the grim reports. Phytonecrosis - a cosmic plague spreading like wildfire across interstellar ecosystems. This was no ordinary mission. It was humanity's attempt to salvage what remained of biodiversity before it vanished entirely. As the shuttle touched down on uneven terrain, Elias stepped out cautiously, boots crunching against dry soil littered with dead petals. His eyes scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of movement. For weeks, communication signals had hinted at something or someone still alive here. A faint pulse of energy, erratic but consistent, emanated deep within the heart of this dying land. It wasn't until today that command authorized him to investigate further. Armed with scanners and determination, Elias began his trek toward the anomaly, unaware that his journey would lead to far more than scientific discovery. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, broken only by the occasional groan of shifting earth beneath his feet. Every step felt heavier than the last, as though the planet itself resisted his presence. Yet, despite the oppressive atmosphere, Elias couldn't shake the sense that he was being watched. Shadows danced at the edges of his vision, fleeting and elusive. Was it paranoia, or was there truly something, or someone out there? He paused to adjust his scanner, its screen flickering as it struggled to make sense of the chaotic energy readings surrounding him. The device buzzed insistently, pointing him toward a cluster of petrified trees ahead. Each tree bore strange carvings etched into its bark, symbols that seemed almost deliberate, as if they told a story. Elias ran his gloved fingers over the markings, marveling at their intricate design. Could these be remnants of an ancient civilization? Or perhaps warnings left behind by those who had witnessed the planet's decline firsthand? Pushing forward, Elias found himself drawn deeper into the labyrinth of decay. The ground became increasingly unstable, forcing him to tread carefully to avoid falling into hidden crevices. Strange flora dotted the landscape, plants that appeared frozen in time, their forms twisted into unnatural shapes. Some emitted faint luminescence, casting ghostly glows that illuminated the path ahead. Others crumbled to dust at the slightest touch, releasing clouds of spores that made Elias cough violently despite his mask. Despite the hazards, Elias pressed on, driven by a mix of curiosity and duty. Somewhere in this wasteland lay answers that could mean the difference between life and death for countless worlds. And yet, as the hours passed, doubt began to creep in. Had he come too late? Was this mission doomed from the start? These questions haunted him, gnawing at his resolve with every step he took. Hours passed under the dim light of Zereth 7's twin suns. The oppressive silence weighed heavily on Elias, broken only by the occasional crackle of static from his comms device. Each step forward revealed new devastation. Rivers turned to dust, mountains eroded into jagged spires, and air thick with the metallic tang of decay. Yet amidst the ruin, there were whispers of hope, or so he told himself. Somewhere ahead lay answers, perhaps even salvation. It happened suddenly. As he rounded a cluster of petrified trees, a shimmer caught his eye. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than sunlight reflecting off water, but closer inspection revealed something extraordinary. Suspended midair, Encased in a translucent orb of pulsating light, floated a single flower. Its petals glowed faintly, shifting colors with every heartbeat of the surrounding energy field. Elias approached cautiously, extending a scanner toward the phenomenon. Before he could take readings, however, a voice pierced the silence. "You shouldn't be here." Startled, Elias whipped around, nearly dropping his equipment. Standing several paces away was a figure cloaked in shadows, her form barely discernible against the backdrop of twilight. Slowly, she stepped into view, revealing luminous skin that seemed to ripple like liquid silver. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, bore into his own, carrying centuries of wisdom and sorrow. For a moment, Elias simply stared, unsure whether to flee or stay. The figure radiated an aura of both menace and vulnerability, her presence commanding yet fragile. She moved with deliberate grace, each step calculated and precise. Her clothing, if it could even be called that, was composed of flowing, iridescent material that shifted hues with every movement. Strands of hair cascaded down her back, resembling vines intertwined with tiny blossoms that pulsed faintly, mirroring the rhythm of the floating flower. "I'm not here to harm anything," Elias stammered, raising his hands defensively. "I'm a biologist. I've come to study to help." The stranger tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "Help," she echoed, her voice melodic yet tinged with skepticism. "Your kind does not understand help. You take. You destroy." Elias flinched at the accusation, though he couldn't deny its truth. Humanity's history with alien worlds was riddled with exploitation and error. Still, he pressed on. "Not all of us are like that. Some of us want to make things right. That's why I'm here, to stop whatever's killing your planet." For a moment, she simply stared, her expression unreadable. Then, without warning, she extended a slender hand toward the glowing flower. The orb surrounding it flickered, responding to her touch. "This," she said softly, "is the Los, the heart of Xerath. Without it, my world will die completely." Her words sent a chill down Elias's spine. What happened to it? To everything else? "Disease brought by outsiders," she replied bitterly. "A sickness born of greed and ignorance. My people tried to contain it, but we failed. Now only I remain, the last caretaker of our legacy." Her name was Lyra, she explained, though titles held little meaning anymore. Once, she had belonged to a lineage of guardians tasked with preserving Xerath's delicate balance. Their rituals, honed over millennia, ensured harmony between flora and fauna. But those traditions had crumbled alongside the ecosystems they protected. Alone and burdened by guilt, Lyra wandered the wasteland, tending to the Los as best she could. Elias listened intently, piecing together fragments of her story. Though wary of her initial hostility, he sensed a shared purpose beneath her cold exterior. "If you let me," he ventured cautiously, "I might be able to help. Earth has faced ecological crises before. Maybe together, we can find a way to heal this place." Lyra hesitated, her gaze drifting back to the Los. "You cannot comprehend the weight of such responsibility," she murmured. "But if you truly wish to aid me, then prove yourself. Follow me." Without waiting for a response, she turned and began walking deeper into the wilderness. Reluctantly, Elias followed, unsure whether he'd just made an ally or sealed his doom. The journey that followed tested Elias's endurance in ways he hadn't anticipated. The terrain grew increasingly treacherous, with jagged cliffs rising steeply on either side and fissures splitting the ground beneath their feet. Strange creatures lurked in the shadows, their forms distorted by the disease that had ravaged the planet. Some emitted low growls, while others scuttled silently, watching the intruders with hollow, unblinking eyes. Despite the danger, Lyra moved with fluid grace, her steps guided by instincts honed over centuries. She navigated the hazardous landscape as though it were second nature, never faltering or hesitating. Elias, on the other hand, struggled to keep pace, his breath growing labored inside the confines of his suit. His muscles burned with exertion, and sweat trickled down his brow, pooling uncomfortably at the nape of his neck. "Where are we going?" he asked finally, breaking the oppressive silence. "To the Nexus," Lyra replied without slowing. "A place where memories of Ziritha's past converge. If anyone can decipher how to save the Los, it will be there." Though intrigued, Elias couldn't shake the feeling of unease gnawing at him. Every step felt heavier than the last, as though the planet itself resisted their intrusion. And yet, he pressed onward, driven by a mixture of curiosity and obligation. Perhaps, buried within these ruins, lay the answers they desperately needed. After hours of relentless travel, they reached the Nexus, a sprawling cavern illuminated by veins of bioluminescent crystal embedded in the walls. The air hummed with latent energy, vibrating in sync with the rhythm of Thalos' glow. Lyra knelt at the center of the chamber, placing her palms flat against the stone floor. Her body tensed momentarily before relaxing, as if entering a trance. "What are you doing?" Elias whispered, reluctant to disturb her. "Listening," she replied distantly. "The Nexus holds echoes of Ziritha's essence. If I attune myself, I may hear its voice." Minutes stretched into eternity as Elias observed her, marveling at the symbiotic connection she shared with her world. Finally, Lyra opened her eyes, exhaling sharply. "There is a way," she announced. "But it requires sacrifice, a fusion of life forces. One must willingly merge with the Los to awaken its dormant potential." Elias frowned, dread pooling in his stomach. "And what happens to whoever does that?" "They become part of it," Lyra said simply. "Forever." The weight of her words settled heavily upon Elias. Sacrifice. Immortality intertwined with duty. He wrestled with conflicting emotions: fear, admiration, resolve. Could he abandon his life, his identity, for the sake of an alien world? Did he even have the right to decide? Before he could respond, a low rumble shook the cavern. Dust rained from above as cracks spiderwebbed across the ceiling. "We're running out of time," Lyra urged, rising to her feet. "The disease spreads faster each day. If we don't act soon, the Los will succumb too." Elias nodded grimly, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Together, they retraced their steps back to the floating flower, its glow dimmer now, almost frail. Lyra reached out, cupping the orb gently in her hands. "Are you ready?" she asked, meeting his gaze.
He swallowed hard, nodding.
"Let's do this." The ritual unfolded in surreal harmony. Guided by Lyra's instructions, Elias placed his palm against the orb, feeling its warmth seep into his skin. Memories flooded his mind, vivid snapshots of Ziritha's primeval beauty, its vibrant jungles teeming with life. He saw rivers flowing with crystalline clarity, skies painted in hues no human eye had ever witnessed, and creatures that seemed born from dreams rather than evolution. These visions were not mere images. They carried emotions, sensations, even sounds: the rustling of leaves, the hum of insects, the gentle lapping of water against stone. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized the magnitude of what he was about to lose and gain. This wasn't just a flower or an artifact. It was the soul of an entire planet. To merge with the Los meant becoming part of something greater than himself, but it also meant surrendering everything he had known. His humanity, his individuality, his very existence would dissolve into the essence of Zirith. Yet, despite the enormity of the sacrifice, Elias felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. Perhaps this was his purpose: to leave behind a legacy not for Earth, but for a world that desperately needed saving. Lyra chanted softly, her voice weaving ancient incantations that resonated with the very fabric of existence. The words she spoke were unfamiliar, yet they resonated deep within Elias's core, as if they awakened dormant parts of his being. Her hands moved gracefully around the orb, tracing patterns in the air that left trails of shimmering light. The energy around them intensified, pulsing in sync with the rhythm of the Los. The orb expanded, its glow enveloping both of them until Elias could no longer distinguish where he ended and the light began. Pain lanced through his body, sharp and unrelenting, like threads of fire knitting themselves into his flesh. It was excruciating, yet strangely beautiful, as though every cell in his body was being rewritten to align with the planet's essence. He clenched his jaw, refusing to cry out, and focused on the vision of renewal that played before his eyes. Forests sprouted anew, their branches stretching toward skies filled with stars. Rivers carved paths through valleys, nourishing life along their banks. Creatures emerged from hiding, their forms whole and vibrant once more. Then, abruptly, everything went still. When Elias opened his eyes, he found himself standing beside Lyra, their forms partially translucent, bound together by strands of golden energy. They had become extensions of the Los, guardians reborn. At first, Elias struggled to comprehend the transformation. His senses were heightened beyond anything he had experienced before. He could feel the pulse of Zereth beneath his feet, the flow of energy coursing through its soil and skies. Every breath he took seemed to draw in the collective consciousness of the planet, a symphony of life, death, and rebirth that played endlessly across its surface. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, and terrifying all at once. Lyra guided him patiently, teaching him how to navigate this new reality. "You are no longer separate," she explained, her voice echoing faintly as though coming from a great distance. "Your thoughts, your will, they are now intertwined with Zereth's own. You must learn to listen, to understand its needs." Elias nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure he understood. How could one person, or even two, hope to comprehend the complexity of an entire planet? But as days turned into weeks, he began to grasp the nuances of their connection. Through the Los, he perceived the delicate balance that sustained Zereth's ecosystems. He saw how each species contributed to the greater whole, how every drop of water and beam of sunlight played a role in maintaining harmony. Yet, amidst the beauty, there were shadows. The disease that had ravaged Zereth was not entirely gone. Its remnants lingered like scars, threatening to resurface if left unchecked. Elias and Lyra worked tirelessly, channeling their combined energy to heal the wounds inflicted upon the land. They nurtured seeds buried beneath layers of ash, coaxed rivers back to life, and encouraged the return of wildlife that had fled during the planet's darkest days. Despite their efforts, progress was slow. The phytonecrosis had left deep scars, and undoing its damage required patience and precision. There were moments when Elias doubted whether they could succeed, when the weight of responsibility felt unbearable. But Lyra was always there, her presence a steady anchor in the chaos. Together, they forged ahead, determined to give Zereth a second chance. As time passed, Elias found himself growing closer to Lyra, not just as a partner in their shared mission, but as a companion. Their bond transcended language and culture, rooted instead in mutual respect and understanding. Though they hailed from different worlds, they shared a common goal: to preserve the fragile beauty of Zereth and ensure its survival for generations to come. Their conversations often drifted beyond the practicalities of their work, delving into philosophy, history, and personal reflections. Elias learned about Lyra's past, her role as a guardian, and the guilt she carried for failing to protect her people. In turn, he shared stories of Earth, its triumphs and tragedies, its resilience and folly. These exchanges helped bridge the gap between them, fostering a connection that went beyond their roles as saviors of Zereth. One evening, as they rested beneath a canopy of glowing flora, Elias asked a question that had been weighing on his mind. "Do you ever miss them? Your people, I mean." Lyra paused, her gaze distant. "Every day," she admitted softly. "But grief is not a burden I carry alone. It is part of who I am, just as much as my duty to Zereth." And now, she turned to look at him, her luminous eyes reflecting the starlight. "Now I have you. Someone who understands what it means to fight for something greater than oneself." Her words touched Elias deeply, reinforcing his resolve to see their mission through to the end. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together. Months passed, and Zereth began to show signs of recovery. Verdant forests spread across previously barren landscapes, their canopies alive with the songs of birds and insects. Rivers sparkled under the twin suns, their waters teeming with fish and amphibians. Even the atmosphere seemed clearer, free from the metallic tang that had once permeated the air. Yet, the journey was far from over. The phytonecrosis still lingered in isolated pockets, requiring constant vigilance to prevent its resurgence. Elias and Lyra continued their work, traveling to remote regions of the planet to eradicate the last traces of the disease. Each success brought them closer to their ultimate goal, but it also underscored the fragility of their achievements. One misstep, one oversight, and all their efforts could unravel. During one such expedition, they encountered a particularly stubborn strain of the disease. It clung to a grove of ancient trees, corrupting their roots and spreading outward in creeping tendrils of decay. Despite their best efforts, neither Elias nor Lyra could fully purge the infection. Frustration mounted as hours turned into days, with little progress to show for their labor. "We need another approach," Elias suggested finally, wiping sweat from his brow. "Something we haven't tried yet." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps we must go deeper, into the heart of the corruption itself. Only then can we truly understand its nature and find a way to neutralize it." Though apprehensive, Elias agreed. Together, they descended into the grove, braving the toxic miasma that hung thick in the air. What they discovered there would change everything they thought they knew about Xerath and themselves. Deep within the grove, Elias and Lyra uncovered a hidden chamber, its walls lined with glyphs similar to those etched into the petrified trees Elias had seen during his initial exploration. At the center of the chamber stood a monolith, pulsating with dark energy that seemed to emanate from the very core of the planet. This is the source," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and dread. "The origin of the phytonecrosis." Elias approached cautiously, his senses on high alert. The energy radiating from the monolith was unlike anything he had encountered before, malevolent, chaotic, and utterly alien. It resisted their attempts to analyze or contain it, thrashing violently whenever they drew near. "We can't destroy it," Lyra said grimly. "It's too deeply embedded in Xerath's essence. To remove it would be to destroy the planet itself." "Then what do we do?" Elias asked, desperation creeping into his tone. Lyra hesitated, her expression conflicted. Finally, she spoke. "There may be a way, but it will require another sacrifice. One of us must enter the monolith, merging completely with its energy to stabilize it. Only then can we hope to contain the disease permanently." Elias stared at her, horror dawning in his eyes. "No," he said firmly. "We've already sacrificed enough. There has to be another way." Lyra shook her head sadly. "Sometimes there isn't, and sometimes the greatest acts of love are those that demand the most from us." Before Elias could protest further, she stepped forward, placing her hands on the monolith. Her form dissolved into light, merging with the dark energy until only silence remained. Elias collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by grief and disbelief. Lyra was gone, her essence now part of the monolith, forever bound to the fate of Xerath. Yet, even in her absence, he could still feel her presence, a faint echo of her voice guiding him, urging him to continue their work. With renewed determination, Elias returned to the surface, channeling all his strength into healing the planet. Slowly but surely, the phytonecrosis began to recede, its hold on Xerath weakened by Lyra's sacrifice. Forests flourished, rivers flowed freely, and life returned to the land. In time, Elias came to accept his new role as Xerath's sole guardian. Though he missed Earth and the life he had left behind, he found solace in knowing that he had made a difference. Xerath was no longer a dying world. It was a testament to resilience, unity, and the power of sacrifice. And so, Elias remained, watching over the planet he had come to love. He carried Lyra's memory with him always, finding comfort in the knowledge that her spirit lived on, not just in the monolith, but in every leaf, every river, every star that graced Xeritha's skies. Subscribe now for more epic sci-fi tales exploring courage, connection, and the cosmos.